Why it's important to have today a strong public service media?
In total, it's very important that we have pluralistic media in all countries across Europe, national-wide, regional, and total in Europe. And to have pluralistic media, that means that you have private media, you have public service media, you have media on different platforms. The role for public service media is this is the independence, to have real independent media, independent from private money, but also independent from state. I know it is, and it's in the best way in the best world. The financing of public service is done through license fees. I know in many countries they have changed from license fee to a special media tax, or even in a budget line. When you go to the budget line, it's going to be more dangerous, because then it is much easier for politicians to change the budgets for public service media. It's important that you keep the principle of arm's length, and you can only keep that if you are as independent as possible from state budgets. So license fee is the absolutely best. Sometimes you have turned into a special media tax, but then it should really be strict, some separate from state budgets. So politicians cannot just touch upon it. And to have strong public service media means that you have places where you can, all opinions will be there, where politicians are not influencing in the media. If you look at public service media in the historical way, you've seen years ago you saw more state media, not really public service media. They were turned into public service media. All over Europe, actually, you turned into public service media. What we see today, and what concerns me, is that you see more politicians being more interested in influencing in content in public service media. This is something that we should be concerned about, and have to meet and find ways to go back, so public service media are independent from politics.
Thank you. And which are the main threats to the journalist today in Europe, and how can you help them?
I would say that there are two big challenges at the moment when you talk about threats. The big threat now is what has happened also inside the EU. You have seen killings of investigative journalists. We have much more cross-border journalism today. We have cross-border crimes, cross-border frauds. You have so many things going cross-border and at a very, very high level. So we have to find ways to be better to protect journalists. And we need mechanisms in all European countries. We have the UN Plan of Action for Safety of Journalists and the issue of impunity. We have the European Council have a recommendation to all member states to make sure that journalists can be safe. We have to respect that in all countries. We have to empower and encourage our states to have mechanisms, to create mechanisms and national action to make sure that journalists can be safe. Just for an example, also in a country like Denmark, where I'm coming from, we are now creating an action plan together with the ministries and the police and all the authorities, the media and journalists together. We try to do that. They have done it in Sweden already. A very big national action plan they made. We should have such action plans in all European countries, because that can. When journalists are killed, they have always received threats before they have been killed. You can see them. All the two cases from Slovakia and Malta, both they received threats, and nobody really took care of those threats. We need to find mechanisms so we can safeguard journalists in a much better way than today, because it's getting more dangerous. This is one thing that really concerns me. How can we create a safe environment? And those who should be a part of a solution are the state leaders, because the state leaders today, you see more state leaders creating an environment demonizing journalists. You have states always saying, well, they protect and they say we need press freedom, we need free speech and all that. And then they say, but then journalists should also behave them correctly and should send correct news and all that. I just have to say, we don't need state leaders to educate us in journalism. We know our duties. We know we have to be ethics. We know all about that. What we need our state leaders is to protect us. We need state leaders to be a part of those who create the environment for free media, for press freedom, for space for journalists to do their job. And then it's of course our job, our duty, to be good journalism and create quality journalism. Absolutely. So this is another challenge, and so we have to. We really need to be in dialogue with state leaders, with the governments, to make sure that we have good environments for journalism. And then you've got all about, and I call it fakes, nothing else, because what you normally say is fake. No, just fakes, because and we have to find ways to counter it. And the best way, in my view, is first of all quality journalism. It's simply the best way to fight it. Really good quality journalism, and then media information literacy. Journalists and academics needs to go together and find ways to deliver news literacy for not only schools and universities and so on, also for the citizens. And the third way to counter those fakes, that when I talk about fake, it's propaganda, it's misinformation, it's disinformation, trolls. We have to call it the right name. Because then we know what we are talking about. The third way to do it is through self-regulation. I just read about a very good example on self-regulation, that in France there was a situation where Le Monde wrote, we are not printing this before we make sure that this is the true story we are going for, and we are not just delivering something which is fake.